as you start to work on this stats project, right now all that we have completed is just the background. So kind of to get you thinking about something that you would like to study and maybe some complications that would go with it. So now's the point where we're actually going to get into some content, and some of these should be pretty familiar to you while others might be new. The purpose of this video is to talk about the difference between a population and a sample. So if you looked ahead to the next part of your project, you'll notice that it says identify your population and then identify 2 examples of a sample. And as of right now, you might have a guess as to what population is and as to what a sample is. So you might be thinking, well, population is normally the number of people who live somewhere or things like that. And you're right. So on this next slide, we're going to write down 2 specific definitions of population and sample, and I would like you to pause the video after that and copy those down into your notebooks. So for our statistical definition of what a population is, we are going to use population is the complete or total set of items, and notice we're using the word items, not necessarily people, being studied. And again, take the time to pause this now and copy that into your notebooks. But we're saying from here on out that a population is the complete or total set of items being studied. And again, we specifically use the word items because we're not always going to be studying people. So a population, the complete or total set of items being studied. And if you notice, I also have this graphic down at the bottom of the page. A population would be that entire set. So that's the population. So then for sample, we're just going to say a sample is a part of that population. So just a small part, not the complete set, just a part of it. And again, if we're looking back at this graphic, using kind of our color coding system that we have going on, a sample could be like this corner over here. So it's not the total set, but it's just a part of it. And these can be very big or they can be small as long as it's not every single person or item being studied. So next we're going to talk about actually identifying when something is a population and when it's a sample. And it all goes back to what specifically you are studying. So here in this slide it says, in a study for English class, you are investigating the length of words in a book at a certain reading level. So what are we studying? Well, that's the length of words in a book. Okay. So then you need to think, a sample would be as soon as you start to exclude anything from that total population. So it says, determine whether each description is a population or a sample. All the words on a page of the book, one word in the book, every other word in the book, and then all of the words in the book. I think it's easiest to start by identifying your population. So if we look at these, the only thing that includes every word in the book is that very last one, all the words in the book. So this would be our population. I'm going to shorten it as POP. Okay. So then the rest should be samples, and we know that they would be samples if they have excluded some of the words from a book. So the first one says all of the words on a page. Well, that's obviously excluding all of the other pages, so since it's only a part, this would be a sample. Next one word in the book. Well, hopefully there's going to be lots of words in the book, so if it's just one, that would be excluding all of the other words, so that would also be a sample. And then last one, every other word in the book. Well, that would be excluding every other word in the book, so that would also just be a sample. One thing to note with this is that some samples will be very, very small, like one word in a book. Whereas other samples will be pretty large, like every other in the book would be much bigger. But size does not matter as long as it's not everything, because then obviously that would be a population. So one question you might be thinking about, since this is early on in our statistical topics, is why would we use samples anyway? And here's a scenario to kind of help you with that. Imagine that you worked for the Public Transportation Department in Chicago, Illinois. You were the manager on a project of changing some of the train routes to most fit the needs of the people. So I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago, but they have a great train station department, and they take you out to the suburbs, they take you out to different parts of the city. It is a massive department in their public transportation. So why would it be better to use a sample of people instead of the entire population? And if you think Chicago is a massive city, I mean, it's way bigger than Columbus. It's kind of up there almost to New York and Los Angeles type of level as far as huge cities in America. So why would it be better to use a sample? Well, there's too many people in that city to ask everyone, so there really just wouldn't be enough time. And I'm sure you can think of other kind of pros and cons with this. It might not be safe for you to ask every single person in the city. Some people might not even use the train stations and departments, so why would you want to interview in them in the first place? So samples can be very, very helpful as far as the ease of you as the researcher. It makes it a lot easier for you, but then also they can be pretty accurate, and that's kind of where we're headed next, is how can we get an accurate sample that would still reflect the entire population. So what I would like you to do right now is fill in part 2 of your project. It's a very, very short part. It's just these 2 boxes that you can see on this screen. But identify your population. Be specific. Give the name of the group, the location, and how many total people are in it. Just so you know, we have 407 students here at this school, so you can fill in the other details, and I'll give you that number to have. And then identify 2 examples of a sample. These do not need to be individual names of that sample, but it can just be kind of like who that sample is, like your math class or things like that. Okay? So get to work and let me know if you have any questions.